Maybe I'll have my minions take you out back and kill you horribly.
Hey guys, Josh with J Show Horror back again. Today I want to talk to you guys about the complete third season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now this review will have tons of spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled on this show, if you've never seen it, go ahead, check this show out. It's a really great show, it's worth your time. And this show and its spin-off Angel are available on Hulu at the moment right now, so go ahead and check it out if you have Hulu. Now season 3 is, I think, a really great season overall. It does a lot of great stuff. It has a lot of great episodes. Just like season 2, the villain of this season is the mayor. He is a pretty good villain. His goal by the end of the season pretty much is to become a demon. That's kind of like the overarching story of this season. And this season gives us a few new characters. It does introduce Wesley. I didn't really like Wesley that much. He was okay, but I think that's what the show wanted you to feel about him. And then of course we get Faith in this season. Now Faith, she ends up being one of my favorite characters of the rest of the series, played by the lovely Eliza Dushku. I almost forgot that she was like one of the villains of season 3. So she of course is one of my favorite characters, and I like the two Slayer dynamic that they carried over from season 2. Like I said though, I kinda wish they had Kendra more like carried over into this season and maybe brought Faith on in season 4, but in Buffy and Faith's dynamic are quite a bit different than Kendra and Buffy's. Kendra was like the really good Slayer. She listened to her watch. She followed all the rules of the Watcher and everything. She tried to stay good, and Faith was the complete opposite of Kendra, so I like the dynamic they had on this season. And this season really kind of feels like the end of an era for Buffy. This is the last season in high school, so it kind of feels like the first ending of the show with all them graduating high school. But yeah, overall really great season. They have some really fun episodes. One episode I really enjoy is Band Candy. That episode was the one where all the adults kind of became like teenagers. They revert back to teenagers, and I love seeing everybody out of character. Principal Snyder was really funny, and I love that Buffy's mom and Giles, they had a lot of great scenes together. They were like making out and they were acting like teenagers, and I loved all that. They were smoking. Loved that episode. It was really funny. But I want to tell you guys some of my favorite episodes of this season. The first episode I really enjoy this season is the season premiere episode, Anne. This one starts off with Buffy. She's in a different town. She left Sunnydale because what she had to do with Angel was so hard for her. She couldn't even face anybody. And she's like working at a diner trying to take care of herself, and she comes across one of the people she knew in LA, and she kind of gets sucked back into this supernatural stuff, which I kind of like that, because part of this season is too, I really feel like Buffy starts to really accept that she's the Slayer, because in the first 2 seasons she really wanted to be just a teenage girl. You got to remember, they picked Buffy. Buffy did not pick to be the Slayer. They always pick the Slayer. But yeah, she gets sucked in. She tries to help her friend, and they end up coming across these demons, and they go into another dimension, and like time is different there, and people age different there than in the normal time realm. And the whole ending of this episode was really epic. It felt really big, and the fighting and all that was really well done. I thought this episode felt like a bigger scope episode.
Anyone who's not having fun here? Follow me.
And another thing I loved about this episode was Oz, Willow, Xander, and Cordelia, still in Sunnydale. They took over for Buffy, and they are slaying vampires, and I loved that they did that. Of course, they have a lot of problems with trying to fight vampires and all that. Overall, I thought this was a great episode, a great way to start season 3 after the ending of season 2. Alright, the next 2 episodes, I completely love these 2 episodes, and they do a lot of stuff that end up carrying on in the rest of the series that I love. But The Wish and Doppelgangland I think of as a two-parter. But first, let's talk about The Wish. The Wish is the episode where Cordelia wishes Buffy never came to Sunnydale, and this is one of those really fun what-if episodes. This episode also introduces Anya, the demon Anya, who ends up being one of my favorite characters throughout the rest of the series. So Anya gives Cordelia her wish.
I wish Buffy Summers had never come to Sunnydale.
Done.
And I like how different everything was. Like, there a lot more people has died in the Sunnydale High School since Buffy wasn't there. Angel has been locked up by none other than Xander and Willow. They end up being vampires, and I gotta say, Allison Hannigan's acting as vampire Willow was so good. It felt so different than her normal Willow. I just loved it.
Bored now. That's right, puppy. Willow's gonna make you bark.
Instantly, Cordelia noticed how that it's worse than when Buffy was there, and she goes to Giles and she mentions the Slayer to Giles, and Giles is like, well, we gotta contact this Slayer, what's going on? And I like how Giles says that there's some way to make all this better, we gotta try. Even if they have no idea if it's gonna be better or worse than what the world they're living at the moment is. But Buffy shows up, and I like how she comes across Angel. Angel's in the cell that Willow has been torturing him all the time. And Angel does tell Buffy that he did see her and he thought she was going to come to Sunnydale, so they never came to Sunnydale. I really like those what-if type episodes where everything's different, but it ends up going back to how it is by the end of the episode. Overall, I thought this was a great episode. I thought it was a great way to introduce Anya, who becomes a staple of the series for me. I love Anya. But let's talk about kind of part 2 of this episode, Doppelgangland. Anya goes to Willow to try to do a spell because she wants to be a demon again. She is having a hard time being a human, and she just loved being a demon. She was a demon for over 1,000 years, a couple thousand years. But something happens where the alternate universe Willow from the episode The Wish, she ends up in their world, and I loved this episode so much. I loved Allison Hannigan's acting even more in this episode. She was so great. I like seeing her both act good and as a vampire. Loved it. And I really love when they switched their clothes and like Allison or Willow shows up at the Bronze and she's trying to act like a vampire and she like waves at Oz, and it was just perfect.
I guess vampires really don't have to breathe. Gosh, look at those.
It was funny. Willow could not kill her vampire self, so she said, we just have to send her back. We can't kill her. I just can't kill her. And there is a joke in this too that I thought it was just a joke, but they carry it on later where it's kind of like the vampire Willow kind of likes good Willow. So there's kind of like a little lesbian joke going on there, which it does carry over to season 4. So I thought that was kind of cool how it was kind of a joke, but then it becomes like an actual part of this series with Tara later on. So I thought that was great how they did that.
Wanna be bad? This just can't get more disturbing. No more! You're really starting to freak me out.
And I love when they send Vampire Willow back to her alternate timeline or her world. She just instantly dies like she did in the episode The Wish. Loved all that. But yeah, overall, The Wish and Doppelgangland is a great two-parter, and it was a great way to also introduce Anya, one of my favorite characters on the long haul. So yeah, seems like I like a lot of the early episodes of season 3, but the next one I loved was Amends. Now this was the episode where Oz and Willow kind of make up, they kind of get back together, and then Angel's having problems with, he's seeing visions of Jennifer Calendar and everyone, some of the people he's tormented or killed through the years. And you find out that in this episode that the First is doing this, which I think the First comes back like in season 7. As far as I remember, I know the First shows up again sometime later in the series. And this episode is also set on Christmas, and Buffy invites Faith over to her house. Faith shows up, she stirs up a little stuff with Joyce. The first kind of convinces Angel through these visions of Jenny Calendar and the other victims. Angel needs to die. He is going to become bad again if he doesn't die. And I think this particular scene where he goes, he's just standing there waiting for the sunrise. And Buffy finds out, she talks to the first, and the first says, "You won't save Angel. You won't get to him. He will be dead by sunrise." Now, this scene where they have a conversation, Angel is standing there. This is actually one of my favorite scenes of the whole season, and that's probably why I picked this episode as one of my favorite episodes. But Angel is standing there waiting for the sun to come up, waiting to die, and Buffy is doing everything she can to get him out from the sun coming out. And it was really suspenseful. Like, is Angel just gonna burn up here? I mean, in retrospect, you know he's gonna be going to his own show now, but maybe when this was on TV, you didn't know he was gonna have his own show the next season. Right when you think the sun was gonna come up, it starts snowing, so the sun doesn't come out, so Angel doesn't die, so him and Buffy just grab hands and they start walking through town. I just thought it was a beautiful ending to this episode. I thought it was one of the greatest scenes of this series. I just loved that scene and the ending of this episode so much, so it became one of my favorite episodes of this season. Another early season episode, Helpless. Now, Helpless was the episode where Buffy, at the beginning, she figures out that she loses her powers, she loses her strengths and her coordination. So she's really struggling. Like, she says, "Giles, how am I going to fight vampires and demons when I'm so weak?" And you find out that Giles is literally injecting Buffy and making her this way, which that was kind of a heartbreaking scene watching Giles do this to Buffy. He hypnotizes her and he injects her with this stuff. But this is something the British Council always does on the 18th birthday of a Slayer. They literally inject them with this stuff and they throw them into somewhere with a demon or a vampire, and they have to defeat them without their strengths. I think that is so cruel, and not every Slayer survives this test either. Some Slayers die, and I'm thinking, this is so cruel. Why would anybody want to work for the British Council after they do this to you? So throughout the whole episode, Buffy is struggling, trying to fight without her strengths. The vampire in this episode, I think, is one of the best vampires on this show. He's only in one episode, but he was a very menacing vampire. And I just thought this was one of the better episodes of this season. It was great kind of seeing Buffy without her strengths, but she ends up outsmarting the vampire anyway. Another episode I thought was great was Consequences. This is the more of the Faith-centered episode. Faith accidentally killed a human while Buffy and her was fighting vampires. Come to find out, Faith dumped the body at the end of this episode, and this episode starts off from there where Faith almost doesn't care that she killed somebody. Faith ends up kind of going off the rails, and Buffy goes to Giles and Wesley and says, "Faith, we need to do something with Faith." And Wesley tries to do this on his own. He captures Faith, and of course she escapes. And it kind of ends with this big fight with her and Buffy fighting all these vampires. And at the very end, Faith does stake one of the vampires, so she kind of helps Buffy. Then she takes off, and she shows up at the mayor's asking if she can work for him. So I thought this was a really great episode overall. It was a Faith-centered episode. And Faith is kind of really going off the deep end, so this is kind of where it really starts, where Faith ends up working for the mayor. So yeah, overall, great episode, and with her staking one of the vampires helping Buffy at the end, there's still a glimmer of hope that she might come back to the good side, but yeah, overall, Consequences is one of the better episodes of this season. In the last episode I will go into depth about is Enemies. Now, Enemies is the episode where the demon says, we have these books on ascensions, come meet me later, and Faith she goes and kills the demon. and gets those books and gives them to the mayor so the mayor can figure out how to ascend into a demon. The reason why I love this episode so much is because the mayor hires a demon to take away Angel's soul again. And when they were doing the scene where he was doing the chant, get rid of his soul, and then I thought Angel lost his soul again, I like freaked out. I'm like, are they doing this again? Season 2 was so heartbreaking but great at the same time, but like, did Angel lose his soul again? And how are they gonna get it back and all that? It was all an act. And I love the third act, or their final scenes in this episode, where Faith shackles up Buffy, and Faith kind of goes on a rant about Buffy's the good girl or whatever, and she is working for the mayor, and the mayor is going to ascend on graduation day. And I loved it felt like a plot twist. I love the twist where they reveal that Angel didn't lose his soul. This was all a scheme to find out what Faith knew. I just loved that ending so much that it was one of my favorite episodes of this season.
The world's best actor.
Second best.
And I liked how they kind of tricked me thinking Angel lost his soul, but he actually didn't. Yeah, I was kind of freaking out. Like, did he lose his soul again after the heartbreaking second half of season 2? But yeah. And then I wanted to talk about one of my favorite moments from the season, not particular like episode, but it kind of feels like the payoff to like the whole early seasons, the high school seasons, where they are at the prom. They introduced a brand new award, the Class Protector Award. And of course, Jonathan says that everybody knows that Sunnydale is not a normal high school. So everybody knows what Buffy has been doing the last few years. They know she has been protecting everybody in school. It was something they never talked about really. It felt like a great payoff moment to like the entire high school years of this show. I loved it. Angel shows up and they dance at the end. Loved that. That was a great moment. Loved it. And then of course graduation day was the climax of the series, is the series finale, and the mayor does turn into a snake or a demon, a giant snake. The last episode did kind of feel like the end of an era for Buffy. And I love that the snake ate Principal Snyder. That was so...
You're on my campus, buddy. And when I say I want quiet, I mean...
oddly satisfying, because I never liked Principal Snyder. He was a jerk, and they literally blow up the high school on graduation day. I think season 3 is a great season overall. Love season 3. I don't think it quite reached the height of the Angela story arc from season 2, but I think that's like a top tier story arc for Buffy, but season 3 is great. Guys, let me know in the comments below if you love season 3 of Buffy. Tell me some of your favorite moments or episodes from season 3. And let me know if season 3 is your favorite season overall. I'd be curious to see if this is somebody's favorite season. It's October now when this video comes up, so I will try to do some movie reviews of horror movies that kind of get me in the Halloween feel. So that'll be what's going on in October, and definitely be looking out for Halloween 1 through 5 4K reviews. That'll be coming out if they don't get delayed in the mail and all that, if everything goes well. And I will see you guys soon. Bye guys.